Hi, so what we're going to do in this video is some decimal subtraction. So we've done decimal addition. If you remember from that, we just needed to make sure that when we wrote it out as a Shindy sum, we just made sure that we understood place value and that units were above units, tens were above tens, tenths were above tenths, and so on. We're not going to do anything different, it's just subtraction instead of addition. Okay? So I'm going to do the first two questions, which are fairly straightforward, and I'll come back and talk. So the first question, really straightforward. I just set it up and then I did the columns. So in the tenths column, we've got 4 minus 2, which is straightforward as 2. And we've got the decimal point, and we've got 3 minus 1 in the units, which gives us 2. Okay, so really straightforward. Then we had a slight more complication with the second question because I couldn't take away 8 from 4 in the tenths. So I just borrowed like I would do with whole numbers. It's just that we're borrowing across the decimal place, but that's fine. As long as the decimal point stays in the same area, it's okay. So I borrowed from the units. So I converted one of the units into 10 tenths, essentially. So that moves the units down to 8 and puts us 4 tenths up to 14 tenths, which I can then do 14 tenths minus 8 tenths, gives me 6 tenths. And then 8 units minus 3 units gives me 5 units, which means there's 5.6 overall. So question 3, essentially the same method, but just with two numbers after the decimal point, but it's still the same. So we started by just setting up 8 hundredths now minus 5 hundredths gives me 3 hundredths. I cannot take 4 tenths away from 3 tenths, so I convert one of the units in the next column next to it into 10 tenths. So the unit goes from 8 down to 7, and then the 3 tenths turns into 13 tenths. 13 tenths minus 4 tenths is 9 tenths, and then 7 minus 2 is 5. So we have 5.93. Question 4 and 5 are really similar. We just need to make sure that we fill in the gaps with zeros when we don't have the correct number of place value parts. Otherwise we're going to make a mistake. So we just set it up properly, making sure tens are above tens, units above units, tenths are above tenths, hundredths are above hundredths. There, I just made sure I filled in all the blank spaces with 0 so I don't get confused. And then 10, I could not do 0 take away 5, so I carried and borrowed from the tenths, giving me 10 take away 5, which is just 5, 8 take away 8 is 0, decimal point, 2 take away 2 is 0, and 1 take away 0 is 1. So yeah, again, set it up, change the 5.9 into 5.90 just to make sure I don't get confused. 3 minus 0 is 3. Cannot do 8 take away 9, so I borrow, and so I get 18 take away 9, which is just 9 tenths, and then 6 take away 5 is 1. Question 6, nothing difficult about this, it's just that we're dealing with thousandths. So it was a really complicated one. I had to borrow twice, 3 times. So I couldn't do 3 take away 6, so I borrowed from the hundreds, giving me 13 take away 6, which is 7. I then couldn't do 3 take away 8, so I borrowed from the tenths, giving me 13 take away 8, which gives me 5. I then couldn't do 0 take away 7, so I then borrowed from the units, giving me 10 take away 7, which is 3, and 1 take away 1 is 0, with decimal point, so it's 0.357. So that is decimal subtraction.